Hello friends, today we are talking about a one book who will give the secret to freedom and success. The book name is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. So let's start it. Let's start from introduction of the author. Napoleon Hill was a very successful American author in the area of the New Thoughts movement, one of the earliest producers of the modern genre of personal success literature. He is widely considered to be one of the great writers on success. What the mind of man can conceive and believe it can achieve is one of Hill's hallmark expressions. He was born in Pound, Southwest Virginia, to a very poor family. His mother died when he was very young. As a young man, he was known as the mountain reporter for a rural newspapers. He had to drop out of college because of lack of funds to support his education. The turning point in Hill's life occurred in the year 1908 with his assignments. As a part of series of articles about famous and successful men, he interviewed the industrialist Andrew Carnegie. At the time, Carnegie was one of the most powerful men in the world. Hill discovered that Carnegie believed that the process of success could be outlined in a simple formula that anyone would be able to understand and achieve. Impressed with Hill, Carnegie asked him if he was up to the task of putting together this information to interview or analyze over 500 successful men and women, many of them millionaires, in order to discover and publish this formula for success. A part of this research, Hill interviewed many of the most famous people of the time, including Thomas Edison, Alexander Graham Bell, George Eastman, Henry Ford, Elman Gates, John D. Rockefeller, Senior Charles, Max Schwab, F. W. Woolmark, William Wrigley, John Wanamaker, William Jennings Bryan, Theodore Roosevelt, William H. Taft, and Jennings Randolph. As a result of his studies via Carnegie introductions, the philosophy of achievements was offered as a formula for rags to riches success by Hill and Carnegie. Published initially in 1928 as the multi-volume study courses, The Law of Success. Hill later produced his most famous work, Think and Grow Rich, which is one of the best-selling books of all time. Hill's work examines the power of personal beliefs and the role they play in a personal success. He became the advisor to President Franklin D. Roosevelt from 1933 to 36. Today's philosophy of success teachers still use the research formula taught by Hill to expand their students' knowledge of personal development. Napoleon Hill died in South Carolina at the age of 87 while working on You Can Work Your Own Miracles, which was published after this date in 1971. Let's now start the first chapter, Introduction: The Power of Thought. The man who thought his way into partnership with Thomas Edison. Truly, thoughts are things and powerful things at that. When they are mixed with definiteness of purpose, persistence, and a burning desire for their translation into riches or other material objects. A little more than 30 years ago, Edwin C. Barnes discovered how true it is that men really do think and grow rich. His discovery did not come about at one sitting. It came little by little, beginning with a burning desire to become a business associate of the great Edison. One of the chief characteristics of Barnes' desire was that it was definite. He wanted to work with Edison, not for him. Observe carefully the description of how he went about translating his desire into reality, and you will have a better understanding of the 13 principles which lead to riches. When the desire or impulse of thought first flashed into his mind, he was in no position to act upon it. Two different difficulties stood in his way. He did not know Mr. Edison and he did not have enough money to pay his railroad fare to Orange, New Jersey. These difficulties were sufficient to have discouraged the majority of men from making any attempt to carry out the desire. But his was no ordinary desire. He was so determined to find a way to carry out his desire, that he finally decided to travel by blind baggage rather than be defeated to the initiated. This means that he went to East Orange on a foreign freight train. He presented himself at Mr. Edison's laboratory and announced he had come to go into business with the inventor. In speaking of the first meeting between Barnes and Edison years later, Mr. Edison said, "He stood there before me, looking like an ordinary tramp, but there was something in the expression of his face which conveyed the impression that he was determined to get what he had to come after. I had learned from years of experience with men that when a man really desires a thing so deeply that he is willing to stake his entire future on a single turn of the wheel in order to get it, he is sure to win. I gave him the opportunity he asked for because I saw he had made his mind to stand by until he succeeded. Subsequent events prove that no mistake was made. Just what young Barnes said to Mr. Edison on that occasion was far less important than that which he thought. Edison himself said so. It could not have been the young man's appearance which got him his start in the Edison's office, for that was definitely against him. It was what he thought that counted. If the significance of this statement could be conveyed to every person who reads it, there will be no need for the remainder of this book. Barnes did not get his partnership with Edison on his first interview. He did get a chance to work with in the Edison office at the very nominal wage, doing work that was unimportant to Edison but most important to Barnes because it gave him the opportunity to display his merchandise where he intended partner could see it. Months went by, apparently nothing happened to bring the coveted goal which Barnes had set up in his mind at his definite major purpose. But something important was happening in Barnes' mind. He was constantly intensifying his desire to become the business associated of Edison. Psychologists have correctly said that when one is truly ready for the thing, it puts in its appearance. Barnes was ready for the business association with Edison. Moreover, he was determined to remain ready until he got that which he was seeking. Now we stop and we will start in the next episode or chapter.